Hello again, and welcome back to the Slow Flowers Show with Deborah Prinzing. I'm Deborah Prinzing, and it's episode 585. When it was first published in 2012, The 50 Mile Bouquet was the first book to spotlight a major cultural shift and a transformation around how cut flowers are grown, designed, and consumed, closely mirroring the culinary world's locavore, slow food revolution. One decade ago, the floral industry was just beginning to ask for changes, seeking alternatives to imported, mass produced, and chemically laden flowers. The 50 Mile Bouquet introduced some of the innovative voices of the dynamic new slow flowers movement, the organic flower farmers, the sustainably minded floral designers, and flower enthusiasts who were increasingly asking where and how were my flowers grown and who grew them. Today's guests involve me in their story, their flowers, and the renaissance of floral agriculture in the Pacific Northwest and beyond. I learned so much from them while interviewing and writing about the farms and design studios of slow flowers practitioners, even before I began to use the phrase slow flowers. So let's jump right in and meet Diane Szukovathy and Dennis Westphall, co-founders of Jello Mold Farm in Mount Vernon, Washington, and part of the cohort that established the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market in 2011. They are both past guests of the Slow Flowers podcast. I consider them sustainability leaders, pioneers of the Slow Flowers movement, and good friends. I will jump right into that interview and I'll share our sponsor thank yous afterwards. I'm so happy to be here with Diane Szukovathy and Dennis Westphall of Jello Mold Farm. Thank you for letting me come see you guys today.
Hey, no problem.
This is part of our 10-year retrospective of the 50 Mile Bouquet. And Diane, because of that beautiful photo, you became the cover girl of the 50 Mile Bouquet. I mean, I can't take any credit. It was the art director's choice, right?
And there's no bikini.
Hold it up.
Everybody's got to have their 15 minutes of cover girl, don't you think? Okay, you got it.
Diane, tell us a story about that photo because you had a comment about it. When was it? Was taken in like 2010 or so?
Somewhere around 2010. And we, like lots of people have before us and many more after us, decided we'd jump off into the lake and start a flower farm, right, Dennis? So we're growing all these flowers and doing a good job of growing flowers, but nobody's flower farm should look like this unless you're inviting visitors to come see your park-like setting. But to be production farmers, you don't really want your farm to look like
like
that.
Bloom, yeah.
It's like a botanical garden.
Exactly.
I know. Everybody wants to come and visit the beautiful flower farm,
but I mean,
it's just like, well, there's not going to be many flowers you're going to be seeing.
So that was actually, what you're looking at is kind of a problem that needed solving.
And let Dennis open the page to where he is.
Oh, here we go. I'll get that for you.
Is that similar?
You gotta hold
Oh,
it up.
okay.
You gotta hold that up.
So this is me. This is me on a poster.
And that's what this is where we got the term farm porn.
Farm porn for sure. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, if we would have thought about real farm porn, I wouldn't have anything on.
And you've had photos, Dennis, in at Mr.Mold on Instagram that not completely naked, but
Yeah.
You've been in bathtubs.
Let's just say that he's not. It doesn't take too much coercion to get him to drop him.
Well, see, the problem is that there's a very small window of time here where, I mean, I'm out there naked in the fields every year, but the window of time is usually by the time it gets warm enough till when the mosquitoes hit, it's very short.
So I'm just wondering how within 5 minutes you managed to change this to naked farming.
I'm
just wondering that. I mean,
well, Diane,
she brought it up.
She did. Diane said porn. She said
porn. You did. That's right.
That's always how we roll. Actually, that is exactly feed off each other. That is exactly
goodness.
how it goes.
Well, when I asked you if we could do this, we just had a wonderful lunch together, and we started talking about all the changes in the last 10 years, and in the case of that photo, it's been 12 years, but the 50 Mile Bouquet came out in 2012. And can one of you or both of you talk about that arc of a decade? Like what was Jello Mold in 2012, and what is Jello Mold in 2022?
Let's see what kind of hole you can dig.
And then one
Well-
of you can correct each other. Yeah.
First of all, I don't think we realized exactly what we were starting to be. I mean, when we bought this place, it just kind of fell out of the sky, and we thought, well, we'll grow some food. We can maybe grow food. So the first thing we did is planted a big old orchard, and did we do vegetables too then? And berries and blueberries and raspberries and anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it was a pea patch out of control.
Yeah.
You grew more than you two could consume.
Very much.
Well,
so.
and so the thought was, we'll grow food to make a living, but we found out very quickly that there's no way we're going to be paying the bills trying to sell at the local farmers markets. But so the background, and Diane had her background in horticulture at the landscaping company, and I'd been working with her. So, why don't we just translate that and grow things that we already know here on the farm?
Ornamentals.
And yeah.
Dennis, when you moved here and you said that this property in Skagit Valley fell out of the sky, prior to this you were living in Seattle, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That
and
was-
you were an artist. You're an artist and musician. You both.
Yeah.
Diane's an artist.
Yeah.
So radical pivot to living the life of a flower farmer, but it was an evolution, right?
Yeah, we lived both places. We kept a place in Seattle, and then as we were building this place, so for probably 2 or 3 years, we probably maintained a Seattle place as we
Okay.
were getting this up and going. And I mean, for me, it's like it's a good example of not knowing what you're getting into, because starting a flower farm in your 50s I would not recommend it.
even if you're Dennis.
Well, I mean, because I'm Dennis, I was able to pull it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm 10 years younger than Dennis, so but still, I think what happened was at the point that the 50 Mile Bouquet came into being, we had figured out that we wanted to be flower farmers, and we had planted a lot of things, and we had developed a network of florists that we could sell to doing what they call a bucket truck, which driving around and but you could only go to so many. I mean, but that story's probably in the 50 Mile Bouquet.
It is. In fact, I'm going to show you the photo, because the photo of you with Melissa Fevier
Oh yeah.
is opening one of the chapters where, Diane, you're right here with the truck.
Oh yeah,
That was your
that's,
bucket
that's
truck.
exactly what
That's
we were
it.
doing. But you could only stop at maybe 10 shops.
10 to 12
Yeah.
stops in a day. Yeah.
And they might, you'd have some orders, but then you'd have some open stock on the truck. It wasn't very efficient. It wasn't going to make us a living. So even though we figured out we could really do a good job of growing things, and there was a demand, so
So
we
you
were
were
in
doing-
that place about
you-
50 Mile Bouquet.
You were doing that plus some farmers markets.
Yeah, plus selling in some farmers markets, which
Plus still doing landscaping in Seattle.
because we couldn't sustain our living.
Your
pay our
landscaping,
mortgage.
your landscape
just,
work was subsidizing the flower farm.
Right, and helping us get it going, which
Yeah.
is not a bad model actually, because I don't
And
know
then
how else we would have
and then
started.
plus
yeah.
I was still doing music then too.
Right.
Yeah. I think we're creatives.
Yeah.
So we approached this problem like creatives would, which
Yeah.
is like, okay, how do we kind of hit an obstacle? How do we change our game to be able, because we had this mission, the real mission under the mission was, we want to live outside the city. We both wanted to live on a piece of land. We both grew up on pieces of land, and we weren't all that comfortable with the hubbub of the city, I would say. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're like, I read this Wendell Berry essay, like something, Agronomy and Economy, or one of those. He has a whole series of them, but one of them I was reading was just this idea, like, I really wanted to be a land steward. That was, I think we just wrote our values up. We were having a little revisiting. We independently wrote our values up and then looked at them, and they totally overlap. We're like, okay, well, I guess we can stay married. But it was also
After all this time.
but it really came
Yeah.
on strong now, and it was definitely then. It's just like, we care about this planet. We care about ecology, and we see ourselves as part of the human stewardship of ecology.
Yeah.
And helping with the problem solving, some of the things that the planet is facing as best we can. So that was like, you can't live on a piece of ground if you can't make a living on it. Like, that was the whole idea of this essay, was like, okay, you got to figure out a way to live on it, to be able to make a living on it, to be able to stay on it. So that's how we
Yeah.
kind of got into this.
That's wonderful.
And the whole thing is trying to solve that problem. as creatives.
I also remember there's a quote from you in the 50 Mile Bouquet where you talk something, I'm paraphrasing, but something about, we want the land to feed us and all the critters who are here too.
Right.
You use the word critter.
Yeah.
Because you're organic and
well, and that's a lasting theme. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think you're on the same page. I don't actually think that humans are some separate part of the planet. We're actually the same as all. We're made of the same thing as all the other creatures, and we probably could do better to learn to converse with them more.
We're just a little more evolved species of parasite.
right.
Now, yeah.
So
I love when he just grabs a royal we and runs.
It's okay. It's okay.
I was talking about humanity.
Okay, let me just state for anyone who happens to be watching this that what he says, I may or may not agree with what he says.
We'll have to kind of have a little like ticker tape across the bottom of this saying, and please disregard what Dennis just said. Well, one of the things that you mentioned, Diane, about how the photo on the 50 Mile Bouquet, which was taken by David Perry, which is like so luscious and abundant and of the moment, peak of season. You're with Stacy and it's a conversation between a florist and a flower farmer. That's what appealed, I think, to Jimmy. I think did the design. Jimmy Faulkner was our designer. To select that because it is a conversation, and I feel like you guys early on got that you can grow all this stuff, but you have to develop a market and have a relationship with your customers. And that's sort of been the through line for everything you've done. Actually,
it's kind of funny. You just sparked a memory in my mind. Stacy absolutely hated German iris, and in this photo, I'm actually going, Stacy, look at this gorgeous German iris, and she's like, I'm flipping her a bunch of crap. Is basically what I'm doing in this photo, which is hilarious because she was a phenomenal designer, and she had her very strong opinions about some things, and so we had developed enough of a relationship where we were like laughing about things like that, and so that was actually a little subtext.
I love that
picture. Yeah.
And you know what? You do that all the time because you're such experimental growers. You introduced crops to the Seattle Floral Design Marketplace. Maybe not single-handedly, but like you were out there in front with certain crops. I would say thornless raspberry and thornless blackberry would be your signature win, right?
Well, I mean, we did introduce some things. We also percolated other things. I think like the we growers spark off of each other. Mm-hmm. And we're like, what about that? And we like kind of feed each other that way. Kind of like maybe how other people like get into fashion or something. We get into that with plants. You know, like. So definitely that's definitely I think our creative energy.
Or we'll see something growing out there that is growing not for one reason, but we'll say, hey, what is that going to be like in the vase? Mm-hmm. So we'll just experiment and we'll do vase tests and longevity and different solutions and see, is this going to be a cool cut? And we've come up with some really fun things to introduce that people had not used.
You know what you make me think about? You were the one who first saw snowberry foliage. Yeah. Like we had Hancock snowberry growing because we're like, excited because it's a late crop for us and you can pick it between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and it's got this beautiful kind of cranberry berry that's
kind of the color of your sofa.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah. It's a beautiful crop, but we weren't selling as much of it as we had. It was like because it's such a narrow window, and our customers were buying a lot more in the summer and all that, and so we had a lot of it sitting out there. And Dennis goes, about the third time you told me you thought that foliage had some potential, I listened to you. And then he did exactly what he said, and it turned out, what we did is we went down like Candyman to the market, and we did a co-op market, and we made little bunchlets and handed them out for free. First one's free. Like dealers.
After the vase test. First we vase test to make sure.
Yeah. This is without the berries. This is earlier in the season.
This is just the foliage.
It's really
starting early summer, and it's turned out to be one of the best foliage crops around, and it's invincible, and it holds up in the heat, and I don't really know what the vase life is because after 3 weeks it looks like you just picked it. So I said, forget it. I'm not watching this anymore. It's good.
So the botanical name is Symphoricarpus.
Yeah.
And then
Chenaltii Hancock.
Okay, say it again slower because people are going to want to know this.
Symphoricarpos chenaultii, Chenaultii, and then Hancock.
Okay, and it's not like any other snowberry
No.
I've ever seen.
No.
It's tinier berry clusters, like
On
full
up,
clusters.
like up and down the stems.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But the foliage is like it's very little leaflets up the branch that are, I think they're leaflets. They may be leaves. I don't know. We're not that botanically accurate,
Yeah.
but it's they're velvety in
Their
their
texture, yeah,
and they have this little blush on. He has a Dennis. Well, we both have our
They're
own.
petable. It's a petable
Yeah,
foliage.
it's an
Petable.
instinct. It's also an instinct for knowing what are the designers are amazingly creative, and they're also their attention. Like you're always what's new, and they want a variety. They want things to choose from to be able to articulate their vision, and some things they just take to as a staple. And that was an example of that.
That's a great
Yeah.
example. Thank you for sharing that. Like, it's a woody crop, so it takes a while to get it. Like, how many plants do you have? You have rows and rows, as
Yeah,
I
it
can.
We have
grows in thickets, so it's kind
Yeah,
of
it kind of turns into one giant plant.
Yeah, 100 feet long.
Yeah, 100 feet by 8 feet wide.
Okay,
You
so
know, I would say we have about 8 beds that are 80 feet by 6 feet.
wow.
It's a lot of.
Okay, that's just one crop here at Jello Mold, but Jello Mold has had a phases of crops that have taken up a lot of your energy, and then you make decisions back to that artist problem solving thing, like, oh, we might love this, but it's not profitable, or we want to sustain ourselves with more profitable crops. So there's some babies, some darlings you've had to kill.
Well, we have, yes, indeed. Even maybe children.
Okay.
Just before puberty.
No, but I have to say this really sparked something in me, because this theme of creative energy is really at the heart of everything that we do together, I think, and this farm, right? And so it's like, I remember, I really hated math in high school. I hated math.
Of course you hated math. You
I
were
think
an
a lot
artist.
of people
Me
hated
too.
math, and it's like, but it's so interesting because I got really pretty damn good at certain aspects of math when it had to do with being able to stay here.
Yeah.
It got really kind of like creative about figuring out how to do crop costing and stuff. Like, but it wasn't like that was my like joy in life. It was just like, oh, that's part of this path. We're doing it. And we're doing it 100%.
Well,
so that's part of why we learned how to kill our children.
yes.
Math.
Yes. Well, I mean, going back to the beginning, before you started the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market with this cohort of you two and a few other amazing people, which was 2010, 2011, there was that flower farming school that was held up here in Snohomish, or up
We were in the
Skagit.
middle of that, actually.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
know that?
What's that?
We were at the heart of that. Did you know
Yes.
that? Yeah.
Well, I remember you someone came in and taught crop costing and price of goods sold and all. Like, it was very early thinking for this,
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest flower farming community.
Well, it just felt to me like, I don't know, to me it felt like that, I don't want to put point a finger at anybody, but it just felt like a very lost opportunity for people to make a good living. It just felt to me like it was like it was enchanted and frozen. Like time forgot that this was a way people could actually make a living.
Mm-hmm.
And so it wasn't. There was not really any. There's a lot of stuff that just wasn't available, especially in terms of like the idea of envisioning that it doesn't have to be this like little side hobby or this thing that you have to suffer and be very poor and do, or that you could actually straight up, especially in the climate that we're in, grow things and then have people want to buy them and make a living doing it, and maybe even put your kids through college doing it, or like just think like just a good middle class living,
Just redefining what that means to be a farmer.
Passionate about that.
You
I
are.
really feel like that still,
Most people that are growing, they it's the whole romance. They want to grow flowers and have all these pretty things and have people fall in love with them and buy them. They don't want to take time like you did to like gruel over how much time it takes to do the seeding, how much time it takes to do the how many plants per row.
Darling, I have to stop you. Are you putting yourself into the category of they?
Probably. I mean,
Thanks for your appreciation.
you're the. I mean,
No, I'm kidding.
you did. I mean, you. I mean, it was. I mean, I saw how much time
Yeah.
it took going into all that, doing vase tests and seeing, okay, well, and all those trials and
Thank you for
trying
that.
to figure out,
Here's-
okay, is this worth the effort and the time and then the labor it takes? Okay, if we have a 100-foot row, how much labor is that gonna? Do we have to pay
Right.
out to get that
But-
to market?
Okay, so the secret about that, I'm sorry, did you say finish what you were saying? You done?
Sure.
Okay. Let me interrupt you then. No, it's just that I don't do that now.
Yeah.
I just had to figure out the game. You know, I'm creative, and I'm
Yeah.
figuring out, okay, how do we even get this ship sailing in the right sea? You know, and to me it was the vision, the possibility that it didn't, you know, like what it could be.
Right.
That was what drove all those experiments and exercises and all that learning was just that I could just see big, and I think creative people, that's how they make something out of nothing, or you know, like they create something that wasn't there before. That's kind of the impulse, you know.
Yeah, that's the visionary, and that's what drove the formation of the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market.
That's
right?
what I was just gonna say. That kind of happens simultaneously. It's like, sure, you could grow stuff. Anybody can produce or grow something, but the real work comes in. Okay, where's it gonna go to? Who's gonna buy this, and how is it gonna generate that money? And I mean, it's kind of, I think, maybe a little out of spite or well, maybe that is the right word. Going to the wholesalers and saying, "Hey, we got this great stuff. You want to buy it?" And they say, "Well, sorry, we don't. You know, we're not that interested."
Yeah.
So
Right.
so we said, "Fine, we'll just start our own market."
I mean, that was the reality.
That's exactly what happened.
I've heard that story from many of you.
Yeah,
Like you were getting nickel and dimed,
yeah,
and not have the value placed on this amazing local, fresh, hyper local seasonal product.
So in a way, we have the other wholesale the wholesale distributors to thank for the market being created.
Well, there's the other thing is pain is a very good teacher. I mean, I don't enjoy pain if I don't have. I mean, I'm not going to dodge it if it's got something good to mine out of it, but I'm not looking for it, you know. And I don't know, this farmer. I mean, I'm a farmer in my bones, and I was like, I cannot stand a pretty compost pile. I mean, I want a compost pile, but I want it to be like not the stuff that I could be selling, right?
Right.
And so
you're leaving
throwing
money
away
on
all
the
your
table.
products. I think those couple of years of farmers markets, or
Wow.
the pain of that actually recycled that pain into inertia to create the market. There's that. Also, to be fair to the whole wholesaler world, I would say that a farm is like our farm is. We're farming 5 acres.
Yeah.
A farm like ours is not scaled to be able to really effectively sell to wholesale because they don't need us bad enough to keep us alive when they don't want what we've got. If we were 20 acres or 30 acres and really nailing it, then they would buy from us because they would need the relationship. You know what I mean? So it's a matter of scale.
But don't you
know?
think that's changed now in the landscape of wholesale, conventional wholesale, that there are some wholesalers who are realizing that they need relationships with even small scale farmers because their customers are asking for that
You know,
product?
Yeah.
yes, and I think Slow Flowers has done a lot to help with that. I still, as a grower, feel a lot more secure owning my own wholesale house than relying on the
Yeah.
nice people over at the wholesale house I don't own to keep buying from me. You know,
Absolutely.
that I have to say.
And
That's
that I agree completely, and that is the pioneering beauty of the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market, because you guys took the risk and had the pain, and went without sleep for many years.
Yeah.
But now others can look at the model and say, maybe we'll do it slightly different, but there's a way to come together collectively to make a new market or create a new enterprise in our region.
First, they just have to find a Diane that will be a part, wanting to be willing to.
nonsense.
And then they have to find a Dennis who can be the mayor.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now that's true. I do like having that role, even though I have zero power.
Okay.
But
But you're the figurehead mayor.
That's okay. You know, you can liken me to the greeter at Home Depot.
Okay, I think you're a little,
Maybe a little more than
a
that.
little more invested in the career field.
Yeah, and usually with his clothes on, we hope.
Dennis, let's just pause for a moment and celebrate you.
Yeah, wasn't this about Dennis?
Yes,
We were
Dennis.
talking about-
I thought that's what this day was supposed to be about.
It was. Well, what happens on Wednesdays during the season at the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market?
What happens?
Give us some of it, like when do you get out of bed and get in the car, and when do you arrive, and like what happens? Because it's
Okay.
early. It's an early day for you.
Yeah, my day usually starts about 3 in the morning, and all the product and everything is prepped and cut and loaded onto the truck the night before.
Okay.
So that I can just get up, go out, start the truck, and get to the market. I need to be at the market. I usually am there between 4:30 and 5. And
Because you got a lot to unload.
and then because first thing happens is all the sold orders get delivered back to the staff so they can start getting all the orders, because we open at 6 in the morning. So sold orders get off the truck first, and then I set up all of our display of all the floor stock at 6 o'clock. Now normally I used to be, that was my only mayoral duty, was as I got to allow the people to come in at opening time, and I had a bell that I would taunt them. I would stand at the door holding my bell.
But it was because there was like crowds trying to get in, right?
Yeah, there was always like, they're like waiting out there, waiting to just rush in. So I would just wait at the door with my bell, and they couldn't come in until I rang it.
Okay.
And so then, but my bell broke, so
Okay.
I don't have a bell
Nobody
anymore.
got him another one.
We need a new one for 2023. But
So-
you failed to mention one important thing.
What's that?
Your wardrobe. When you get out of bed,
Well-
you still have to plan your wardrobe for the day, right?
Well, it's not planned. It's just I have a very large collection of floral and Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah.
So I have enough shirts starting from probably mid-April till now. Every week I have a different flower shirt from April till November.
What? No repeats?
No repeats.
Okay, we have to thank Glenn Nakata, because Glenn, who had passed away last year, he was our good friend out at the market, and he used to deliver for town and country markets. And Glenn donated quite a few of his surplus Hawaiian shirts to Dennis one day, which was a huge
Yeah,
honor.
yeah.
So that's part of why Dennis has so many.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
special,
Yeah,
though.
it's very special.
Yeah, so I have it, and they range from really wild. So I have it arranged kind of in the closet when I start, so that the spring wild colors start off through the summer, and then as we get into
Didn't
fall,
know this.
and as we get into the fall, then I start wearing the subdued fall
Oh, you're
Hawaiian
funny.
shirts through till now.
What has there been a series of photos on somebody's Instagram feed? Because that would be a really fun calendar. Dennis.
The closest thing to that might be Jessica with Odd Flowers.
Yes.
When she was working at the market a couple seasons, I think she was taking photos almost every week.
I remember that. Yeah.
So that would probably be the closest
Okay.
for that.
So,
then when the market opens, the people flood in, and it's just it's actually, this last while it's really kind of changed. It used to be this crushing wild frenzy, and sometimes it still is that, but the customers have learned that it's too insane,
yeah.
and they don't want to deal
Because
with
then they
it.
have to wait in line.
Yes. So, and that's been one of the downsides that we've been really working on, and getting more sales stations open and things like that. So customers are shopping on different days, and it's been mellower a little lately, except for the big months of summer.
The
It's
big wedding
still-
weeks.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
still that way. So basically, for me, this last couple years with COVID, and it's been so incredibly busy down there that I'm just basically a madman, racing, just trying to help the customers get their orders, bringing in carts, getting them loaded up off the dock so they can get out of there. So the next one's gonna come in, and I'm literally just I keep my little my iPhone with its what is it, pedometer on it. I mean, I'll clock like 7 miles on the floor within about a 3 to 4 hour
Oh my
period,
goodness.
just going back and forth,
Yeah.
dealing with product and customers.
But all of that is because of relationships.
Yes.
The market
And
is
in-
a
yeah.
hub for relationships.
And in
right?
between, I'm head of schmoozing.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
also, can I jump in, or
Yes.
is it still Dennis's
No.
house?
No, we've got a picture of Dennis and,
Well,
and the shirt.
And all the farmers are welcome to be down there, and I sometimes go down there, but it's an interesting thing, you know, not everybody who is on a farm is an introvert. So Dennis gets...
Or an extrovert.
Yeah, I mean,
You
so
mean
well, I'm an introvert. Most
Yeah.
farmers are introverts.
Mm.
Yeah.
Dennis, some of them are not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so then it's like, you know, part of the way of keeping Dennis happy on the farm is he has, you know, 100 best friends that he can go see every Wednesday, you know, and he really means it, and it's heartful connecting, and it's like, so it's,
Yeah.
he helps sell everybody's product in the market, he helps all the customers be happy, and he gets his social needs also met, which makes me happy. So I don't have
And
to beat them.
sometimes I
myself.
get I do say that I take bribes. So it's like I'll take like either good chocolate or good beers, and so customers will bring me treats.
You mean like during a season when there's a shortage of white dahlias? That sort of
Maybe.
thing? Okay.
There's never any promises.
we're getting into some murky
It's like-
country here now. I
But
think.
you know, but I'll there'll be times where all of a sudden I'll come down and there'll be like a package of cookies for me, or
But you know, there's
a
more.
treat
You know, this is your line. This is what you say. But what I've seen going on down there is that, you know, all the names of all the kids of our customers. I mean, genuinely know it. The kids beg their parents sometimes to come to market really
That's
early
true.
in the morning so they can see Dennis. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah.
really cool connecting that's genuine going on there, and that sort of defines the market. It's not just Dennis; it's a community down there.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
it's real relationships.
I agree.
And and everybody, it's kind of magical, but it's how community works. Everybody's got a spot they can plug in at, you know, and it's
Yeah.
like we all kind of complement each other, you know. So my hair's sticking up talking about it actually because it's really cool. And our customers, we're talking about the customers, and Dennis has got them all in line, giving trouble and everything. I want to stop and rave about our customers, and I think that must be all across the country. But who are these beautiful people who all decide they're going to buy local and keep us in business? And thank you. I mean, thank you. I feel it all the time. It
Yeah.
really feels good to be supported by our. I mean, it feels reciprocal, and I do come to the market. Dennis is not the only one who hangs out at the market.
Yes.
He just does it more regularly.
Yes.
I mean, and other farmers do too.
Yes.
And it's like it's really.
It's the
I don't know.
added-
I gotta say that really is 10 years from starting the market, or 12. I guess we're 12 years now. That's incredible. To go down there and see that is just like, oh, that was well spent agony. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, we created a really incredible community there.
Yeah.
And everybody comes, and it's this is a small town. Seattle is not that big of a town, or the region, and they all know each other. So they're all down there. I mean, people have mentioned to me a few times, says, you guys should open up a little side, like there should be a little cafe, coffee shop right here, so because they can just come and hang out and visit and catch up and
Yeah.
and I go, wow, that's a great idea, but
Not me.
not,
brother.
I'm not going to start another.
That's another kind of hub. Like it is a hub, and it goes back to what I was saying about the cover of the 50 Mile Bouquet. Like when farmers and florists come together, magic happens. And prior to not exclusively, but it seems like prior to the growers market, Seattle Wholesale Growers Market's opening, there weren't a lot of opportunities for florists to interact with farmers, unless it was the Jello bucket truck that was going to 12 different florists, and that was it.
Yeah.
But like this community, I mean, I witnessed it. I was there on day one. I witnessed that emergence of this appreciation for how much we need each other.
Yeah.
How much
Yeah.
florists need farmers, and how much farmers need florists, and that's a beautiful thing.
Well, what I always like, I think, was it you that coined the phrase that we grow art supplies
Yeah.
for all these amazing artists. So I mean, I love every time that we come up with something new. I get actually excited when I get to bring for the first time some really cool new thing that's that I get to disperse to all these artists that are gonna go and make all these other really cool things with. And
I've learned that flower farmers are artists. You two, of course, are, but anyone who's growing such a beautiful botanical ingredient
yeah,
for another form of art has got to be equal to that artist. So, okay, well, we I don't want to keep you all day. We could talk forever because we barely could start this interview. But I do want to talk about what's changed for Jello Mold Farm, because one of you at lunchtime said, kind of redefine what Jello Mold is, and you said, I think Diane maybe said foliage and texture.
Dennis said we're not flower farmers anymore, we're leaf farmers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's foliage and textures, I think, is the dominant.
The flowers are
crops.
still there, but that's definitely evolved into that.
And is that because obviously you grow what sells, but you've seen there's an insatiable demand for beautiful woody elements?
Well, probably a couple of reasons is that florists, they prior to a lot of the things that we brought, it's been salal and eucalyptus and whatever the foliage things from California, and there was not a whole lot of choices. And so we just started bringing all these different things, which was, they're going, wow.
I just remember in the early years when we first opened the market, they were like, please, can you bring us some different greens? It takes a while to get those crops established. So we heard them, but 5 years later we show up with them, in volume, But that was a building of a market that our customers asked for.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
Because at one point you had a section of just foliages that you called the salad bar, right?
Right.
Yeah, we still call it.
We
the
still
salad
do.
bar.
It's now we're just almost all salad bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I can't not mention the lilacs, because that is such a special crop for you.
Yeah.
And
well, one of the themes on this farm. Oh, did I cut you off? I'm sorry.
No, I'm
okay.
good.
One of the themes on this farm is that we've been moving from annual crops to more woody and permanent crops. Herbaceous perennial, but even more just woody crops. And that's partly what happens in nature, right? If you have like a landslide or something, the first thing that colonizes is, of course, things like shotweed or the annual weeds and whatever's, and then in there sprouts some just kind of some deciduous things, and eventually you end up with a forest overstory. We're not quite long lived enough for the forest overstory, but we're definitely in the woody deciduous track. And the beauty of it is that it's really going along with the way we're working with the land.
Yeah.
So we don't want to keep tilling and
it's like a permaculture almost.
Yeah,
right?
in a very lazy sort of way. Yeah, and which is probably the whole idea of permaculture is least effort, right? I mean, it's like least damage, least effort kind of thing. Actually, is like, let's just go with the flow here.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, so it's partly that the business has just evolved like that.
Yeah.
It's partly we wanted to take a little bit different track so that everyone wasn't growing the same things with other farmers, and it also we not leave room for new farmers to get
That's
in the
what I was
market.
just going to say, is that by getting out of the annuals, it leaves room for the new growers to be able to come in and bring in those crops and to learn what it takes.
Because there's a lower barrier to entry with annuals.
Yeah, you think the same year.
Uh-huh.
And also, if you need to lease land, if you don't own your land, like there's a lot of, like, so moving out of that is leaving room.
Yeah.
And also, truthfully, as long as you can find the market for it, there is better profit in a lot of those permanent crops if they like you and you like the land and your customers like them. So there's a lot of ifs in there. But
Got it. Okay. No, but I think, yes, you're growing art supplies, but you're also growing flower farmers because of the structure of mentorship and what a co-op is in general, right?
Yeah.
We're growing an industry.
And we've done a lot
Piece
of
of
a lot of intern programs here, work here with. In fact, a number of our member growers at the market were interns at this farm.
Or started work by work.
Yeah, started by working
I
here.
know for sure that Caitlin from Diamond David was an intern.
Doug.
She was an apprentice here, probably, right?
She was
a worker.
Oh, okay.
She worked here a couple of years. Doug did an intern here. Who else was here?
So a lot of people have come here and gone to other places too, and sort of. I mean, not everybody's part of the market. Like it's a bigger picture than just the market too. I mean, it's like, we all have so much in common. It's like I feel excited by the idea. This is kind of a funny thing, but it was one of the things I thought about was my father was an immigrant, and my family suffered from the damage that the war did to him, and that came to our family with trauma and, you know, things that we had to work harder to get past. And I was thinking how I would like to dedicate my life. Even then, I'd like to dedicate my life energy to setting the stage for people to live in peace. I mean, just because I tasted the other side of it, and I was just in this weird ass brain of mine. I mean, we're all different, right? I'm going, what could I do that would contribute to peace? And I'm thinking, give people a livelihood. That's a big piece of it. Give people a chance for a livelihood, or create chances for people to have an opportunity to have a livelihood. Like that idea. I mean, that's kind of deep, but
It's beautiful.
that is underneath that effort my effort that I put into the market was, what if we could leave behind the chance for people to peacefully raise their families doing what they want to do, not some stupid job they don't want to do because
Yeah.
they have to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's
I love
passionate,
that.
but
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a nice sentiment to wrap up on with our sort of a look to the future. And at the same time, it is November 3rd, and you told me you have not had a killing frost yet. So are you looking toward wrapping up the season? You just had your last big delivery to the growers market this week, you said, Dennis, right? So
Yeah, we still have a few crops that are still
winding down.
coming,
Oh.
or that are just coming on. Like the Hancock snowberry
That's true.
is going to be coming on. The red flame dogwood is going to be coming on. I think those are probably the last two things, and
Yeah.
so we'll have stuff that goes on in through December,
Okay.
and then plus the dried. So we're doing a
Right.
lot more with drieds too.
but we're not working the same amount.
Yeah.
I was
It's
just gonna
lovely.
ask
So
that.
the transition is occurring,
Yeah.
and we used to call it frost mess. I mean,
I
our
remember that.
customers would be very sad about the frost, but really secretly, we farmers not so sad about the frost. It kind of, if it doesn't come too early.
You're so
But-
ready for it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't have too many things that are affected that badly by the frost anymore because
Yeah.
we don't grow a lot of the annual things. So
So you just kind of go into
less,
a
less of an event.
less frenzied,
Yeah.
quieter
And
season with fewer
it's
crops.
now,
Yeah.
we'll start to move
But-
into the putting things to bed and prunings and that kind of
But
thing.
do we have time to segue for a second to
Yeah.
something very important for
Yes.
this farm that's just happened in the last year that I think
Yeah.
is amazing?
Yeah, tell
We
us.
used to grow dahlias, and it was, you know, any farmer listening to this who grows dahlias understands what I'm saying. If you have a few thousand dahlia plants, you're not getting a lot of time off in the winter, because they just keep coming. So we drop some of those really intensive crops, and we're still growing a good range of things, and we're still floating our boat. But what we got was 2 days a week off for the first time in probably, since 12 years at least.
What, you mean like because you're not having this sort of needy flower crop like a dahlia
Right.
that you're
Like a herd of cows that you have to
Yeah.
milk twice a day.
Yeah, so it's like we've achieved work-life balance for the first time, and you know, I mean, any
Well-
farmer listening to this, go for the work-life balance. I'm telling you, it's a really good idea. It's just like, you
And
know,
so
it's
is-
like now we can think about farming for another 10 or 15 more years because it's not going to, you know, it'll keep us young instead of killing us.
Yeah.
that's so brilliant.
So,
And
I mean, like us segueing, it was right that we did dahlias when we were trying to get ourselves going, and when you're trying to start something, you do have to overdo it, because you don't have enough
There's no
resources, and
check,
somebody's
yeah.
got to do it, and you got to give it this ultra big push.
Mhm.
But I just wanted
I
to
love
say
that.
that
Yeah.
it's, we hit the green pasture on the other side. We're still
Well,
hardworking, but we're
we'll
not.
get to have
yeah.
time to do our other
Which is,
creative interests.
Right, and so I just think that's also a piece of that story, is just that it isn't just insane forever, and you do want to work toward
I
you have
love
a
that.
life.
I love that that you were aware enough that it was the dahlias that were just sort of out of scale with the life you wanted to have, and you made the transition just this year, right?
Yeah.
Really hard to kill your children.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't think it was that hard.
Well, can I just say, when I got here, there was a beautiful bouquet of dahlias on the kitchen table, and you were kind of saying, "Oh, these we didn't catch these ones."
well, basically, we just put it out to all the other growers, say, hey, there's a whole field of dahlias out there. Come up and dig and take what you want. So we divvied up. So our dahlias are still at the market. They're just got dispersed to everybody else.
Yeah, 10 or 12 farmers
That's
came and dug.
lovely.
Yeah.
So there was a few that they got missed.
And
Yeah.
those are the-
Checkers.
And those are
That red and white one, checkers. Checkers would
Nobody-
never die for us. Now Checkers, we put ground cloth down, we planted permanent tree plantings out there. Checkers is the only dahlia that pushed up the ground cloth and came back through. But there's some other ones that came in a little bit.
It's sort of that, the resilience of plants, of the plant world.
Darn you.
Okay, but as long as they're going to live, they're not hurting anything out
No, and you might even clip a few.
there.
Yeah.
I love you guys. Thank you so much for this conversation and just for supporting everything I've done over the years.
Yeah.
Who would have thought when we did that book project?
That was what? That was 12 years ago that we sat around the little table having a beer, and you had this crazy idea about slow flower thing. What was that? What was that about anyway?
Slow flowers came after 50 Mile Bouquet, but still, the idea was in the
same.
kernel.
It was in the same conversation. No, when I wrote the books, I didn't have any vision of a community or a network. It all just emerged out of just opportunities, that seeing a need and filling it, which is what you guys do.
Well, you also had that really brilliant plant background. You had a plant writer's background, you had a horticultural background that informed you. Really.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, we should stop and say thank you back. Because in that way of community building, you have been a huge piece of that for our industry also. So
thanks. It's been a privilege.
Yeah.
I always like to say I'm an embedded journalist in this community, and it was a different kind of landscape than going to war as a war journalist, but there were ups and downs, and this has been fun, and I just I'm having so much fun with these retrospective interviews. So I knew I couldn't end the year without getting the two of you on the podcast.
Thanks for having us be part of it.
Thank you both. Thanks so much for joining us today. The 50 Mile Bouquets documentary, feature reporting, and photography took readers into the personal stories of slow flowers practitioners like Diane and Dennis. The book's relevance today is more important than ever, considering issues around climate change, supply chain limitations, and equity in the marketplace. I'm so grateful to Diane and Dennis for their support and friendship over the past 12 years since we met. You'll want to visit slowflowerspodcast.com to watch the replay video of today's conversation. Look for episode 585. We'll also post a gorgeous gallery of photos of Jello Mold Farm over the years and the award-winning video of Jello Mold Farm's lilac crops, which I produced in 2021 with videographer Elena Earhart as part of a USDA grant Farm to Florist video series. You'll also find links to Jello Mold Farm's social places so you can follow along with Diane and Dennis as their story continues. Before we go, I'd like to thank our sponsors who bring this show to you. This show is brought to you by slowflowers.com, the free online directory to more than 850 florist shops and studios who design with local, seasonal, and sustainable flowers, and to the farms that grow those blooms. It's the conscious choice for buying and sending flowers. And thank you to our lead sponsor, Farm Grow Flowers. Farm Grow Flowers delivers iconic burlap wrap bouquets and lush, abundant arrangements to customers across the U.S., supporting U.S. flower farms by purchasing more than $10 million of U.S.-grown fresh and seasonal flowers and foliage annually. Discover more at farmgrowflowers.com. Thank you to Red Twig Farms. Based in Johnstown, Ohio, Red Twig Farms is a family-owned farm specializing in peonies, daffodils, tulips and branches, a popular peony bouquet by mail program, and their Spread the Hope campaign where customers purchase 10 tulip stems for essential workers and others in their community. Learn more at redtwigfarms.com. Thank you to the Seattle Wholesale Growers Market, a farmer-owned cooperative committed to providing the very best the Pacific Northwest has to offer in cut flowers, foliage, and plants. The Growers Market's mission is to foster a vibrant marketplace that sustains local flower farms and provides top-quality products and services to the local floral industry. Visit them at seattlewholesalegrowersmarket.com. And thank you to Longfield Gardens, which provides home gardeners with high-quality flower bulbs and perennials. Their online store offers plants for every region and every season, from tulips and daffodils to dahlias, caladiums, and amaryllis. Check out the full catalog at longfield-gardens.com. The Slow Flower Show is member-supported, and I value our loyal members, listeners, and supporters. If you're new to our weekly show and our long-running podcast, check out all of our resources at slowflowersociety.com and consider joining Slow Flower Society. You can find the join button at slowflowersociety.com. I'm Deborah Prinzing, host and producer of the Slow Flowers Show and the Slow Flowers podcast. Next week, you're invited to join me in putting more slow flowers on the table, one stem, one vase at a time. The content and opinions expressed here are either mine alone or those of my guests alone, independent of any podcast sponsor or other person, company, or organization. Thanks so much for joining us today, and I'll see you next week.